Welcome, Hollywood Progressive crowd. Here we are again, Dick and Sharon and Linnea. Today we're interviewing June Carroll, who we know who just wrote the play Blue that we saw at Rogue Machine Theater, and we liked it so much that 2 weeks later we went and saw it again. What'd you think?
Yeah. So we went to see it the first time with a group of friends, and all of those friends happened to be members of our local ACLU. We're on the board of the ACLU. I'm ACLU Southern California. I was on the board ACLU National. In fact, my final day serving on the ACLU board national was when they aired the horrific killing of Tyree Nichols. And that morning, we had a meeting. The ACLU had a meeting, and I said to the entire board, just watching that. Actually, I couldn't watch it. I was hearing it. I couldn't open my eyes. We were in a hotel room, Dick and I, and but just knowing that happened to that young man just made me question everything that I'm doing with my life. Why aren't more people just out in the streets? So June, thank you so much for writing what you wrote in this play, and how did you find it within you to do this?
It's actually funny enough that you say that. It actually kind of goes back to college. My high school history teacher, Miss Barbara Piasek, and my mom's best friend, Lejeune, had sort of plotted with me what my life's trajectory was going to be. I was going to go to Brown University for undergrad, and then I was going to go to University of Chicago for law school, and then I was going to be a Supreme Court judge. I spent 4 years, I got into Brown, and it was phenomenal. But I spent 4 years in the political science department fighting. I did okay with public policy. I did super well in products liability. I did super well in civics and
civil procedure. I used to be a lawyer.
Civil procedure. Yeah, civil procedure. That was fantastic. Couldn't keep the numbers straight to save my life. And I could not, I noticed, bring myself to do the things you're supposed to do if you want to go to law school and be successful. Couldn't bring myself to get an apprenticeship. Couldn't bring myself to check out law schools to find out what kinds of things I could do doing so. Couldn't bring myself to do it, partly because I was really shy. Then I started seeing my teammates, because I was on the fencing team, and most of my teammates, for some reason, went to law school. And everyone who trickled back was beat up and miserable. And I was like, nope, can't do it. So I get to the last round of LSATs, and I sleep right through. And I'm like, you know what? This isn't going to happen. Clearly, this is not my thing. I stayed on for a year, did a transition year at Brown, and then entered the English Lit department. Got into plays, a play survey course taught by Paula Vogel, and wrote a play for my midterm. And she said to me, hey, do you want to join my playwriting class? I realized that I needed the law to be more absolute than it is. I believe that there is right and wrong. And I need to believe in a universe that bolsters that belief. And what I found when I was, particularly with this products liability course, that was the one that kind of put me right over the edge.
Oh, I know.
Truth is what you make it.
That
Truth is who wins.
That's right.
Not just right and wrong. And I could not see, especially when everyone I knew was coming back and miserable, living my life, making things up. I got like I don't say it to brag. I say it because it was troubling for me. I got an A triple plus on my products liability. We had to do a legal brief. that was our project. That was our final project. I got an A++. Do you know what it was? I lifted a story from a show called LA Law about a cowboy who is suing because the steers semen that he bought was bum and didn't give him prize-winning steers. I managed to, and I thought that was so much fun. And I am way too good at making things up. I think I need to do something where if I'm going to be telling stories, people don't get hurt, or in which people help. Law is a way to tell stories that has the potential to save, but too often in our system, the way jurisprudence works in the American legal system, it works against justice. It works against fairness. It works against equality. It works against victims. And all of the things we do to sort of mitigate that, they don't stack up against the wrongs that are done.
Yeah.
So 30 years later, I'm watching the George Floyd fallout, and that hurt. I wrote a poem about it. I've been a playwright for since, I've been studying playwriting, practicing playwriting, and acting this past umpteen years. But then January 6th happened. And without needing to look it up, I knew that there was a direct link between the people on that mall and the people who murdered George Floyd. I say people, that collective of officers. There is this intersection between authority and Black bodies that is deadly in this country, because you're talking about a group of people in the police who learn that their job is not to protect. Their job is to control.
Right.
What that means is it attracts, as far as I can tell, and given the number of times it happens again and again and again, it attracts a personality with a yearning for power, a yearning for control that they don't have in other parts of their life. And that combination of a sense of powerlessness with a gun, the logical conclusion is a George Floyd, is a Tyree Nichols, and the whole litany of others. There was a law enforcement officer, I can't remember her name now. She tweeted after having been observing what was happening with the Tyree Nichols case. She recounted her own experience when she was in law enforcement of taking the retrainings 3 times, and 3 times being told when she questioned whether or not the idea of what the police do was right. This idea that they're the people we're supposed to be policing are the enemy. She got fired for that. She got fired for it.
Yeah.
It didn't shock me when it turned out that there were members of law enforcement on that mall. It didn't, because it's a logical conclusion.
Yeah.
You can't. I don't mean to talk so much. I have people in my family, and I remember I worked with a guy who wanted to go into law enforcement. The guy who went into law enforcement, one of the funniest men I'd ever met in my life. Funniest, sharpest, put him with a gun, I don't want to be anywhere near him. Same thing with my, I have 2 members of my family. One is the ex of one of my cousins. The other is a cousin, who are in law enforcement. And as much as I love he's actually my god brother, I don't want to know him in his professional capacity. I don't, because of what I have observed about him in private life. Not that he's a monster, but I can see how he is drawn to what he is drawn to. And I can see the damage that he could do. We need a new model. We need a model which draws people who are genuinely drawn to the notion of service and protection, not power, not control, and not control of BIPOC bodies.
Yeah.
We need that. And I don't see how we survive the present system. I don't see how we as a collective survive this system. It's not, it's self-sustaining. It's constantly feeding on itself because there are so many people who are just desperate for some touch of, some taste of control, some taste of power. There are enough of them out there that, and the will of those who train to make that shift is not there.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I think the intersection between class and race helps to maintain the system, because we talked about being there to protect and serve. They do have a commitment to protect and serve, but it's just not to protect and serve Black and brown people.
Black and brown people.
And so, because there is a degree of protection and service that they provide, it's given to those in power.
Yeah.
And Brian Stevenson, the famed civil rights attorney, he has said that you stand a better chance if you're guilty and rich than if you're innocent and poor. So the people who have less power, less money, and who are thought of by the rest of society as expendable, that's why we're getting this. Yeah. And that's why it will continue until we do power mapping and make some changes. And I want to give Nia, I don't know, Nia, if you have any questions, give you an opportunity to weigh in here.
Yeah,
this
I think
generation. Go ahead, Nia.
Yeah, first of all, I think I said it to you every time I saw you after watching it the first time, when I saw you went to the second time. Extremely powerful play, extremely powerful content, and extremely timely, I think. I just picking up on something Sharon was just saying is that one of my favorite lines in the play was when she was confronting Sully, and not giving too much away, but one of the lines is, he says something along the lines of, we're here to protect and serve. And she immediately hits him with, protect who? And that's so powerful. It's such a,
thank you.
Just wonderful. Absolutely enjoyed it. I was actually kind of curious about the process of directing this. It seemed like the first time we saw it, and I'm so sorry, I don't have the actress's name in front of me.
Oh, Jalon.
Yes, at the end, the first time and the second time, but seeing it the first time, she seemed honestly, truly affected by the end of the play. And I was curious, what kind of experience was it for these two actors? I assume the actor who plays Sully isn't necessarily like that.
No, he's not. He's really a very nice, he's a genuinely good human.
I got that. Yeah, he seemed, but that's tough then for a genuinely, decent, good person to play this character that I'll choose the words is complex, his belief systems. So I'm curious what that was like for you, talking them through it, having the conversations that I'm sure popped up, what sort of experience that was like for the three of you, or four of you. There was another actress there as well.
The director, Michael, was really instrumental, I think, in laying a safe space for the actors. He and I are of a mind that you can't be shy with words like this, with language like this, with a subject like this. You can't sit too much on what is comfortable. You have to be willing to be open, and in John's case, well, in both cases, to a degree, be your worst self and be able to separate the two, the character from yourself.
Mm.
I think that actually is what helped. I think that helped a lot. Jalan has said it's such a gift to work with her, with both of them, with all of them, everybody at that theater. Jalan had said to me one day that it was, and this is not even a paraphrase, but basically she had been thinking these things, and finally she had the language to say them. And when I heard that, I was like, okay, then we've done our job. And we've done our job, you know. And my friend Brittany said the same thing. You know, we're just trying to be honest as we understand it. And I, as a playwright, I think I told somebody once, I think my job basically is to complain. I see something that makes me mad and I complain about it. And, you know, it's a healthy way to complain for me, because whether I like Sully's character or not, I am forced to try and understand that character, because we got to live with those people. And I think while I still can't quite receive as okay that kind of that mentality, I am a little more at peace with how I navigate dealing with that type of person, because, you know, they're just sitting in their own skin, and just like me, they're sitting in their own skin, but unlike me, I should say, they're not living in a system that bears them out.
Yep. That's right.
That you know, that inhabit, where the language is actually built for them,
That's
where
right.
the rules are built for them.
So they're not racialized. So they're not living in a society that constantly reminds them that they are white.
Other less than,
Or that,
Yeah.
or that they're less than. They're just normal. They're just normal, regular people. They're not hyphenated people. They're and even, you know, with him being cis white male, his gender is even just it's just a non-issue.
It's a non-issue. He's a given. He is a given. His existence is simply what it simply is. And the rest of us, you know, I get it. It tickles me, Jalan's face, when he says the thing about, and again, without giving too much, when he says, don't you get tired of having to parse every word? I get the look on her face is mine, because it's just like, yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. And I've been doing it for 55 years. So welcome to the club.
Yeah.
You know, it's fascinating. Like, there's this guy, Stephen Crawford, who is talking about this kid who just got murdered on the subway. He's talking about the guy who did it, lionizing him, making him into a hero. And he said, essentially, when you do something that forces me to make a decision because I'm uncomfortable, you forfeit the right to live. Here's the problem.
well,
yeah.
got some back dues.
Right. People of color, women, trans people on the gender spectrum, who are along the gender spectrum, who are not cis, straight, white, male, are constantly in danger. We are in constant danger. We are constantly having to parse and think and look over our shoulder. We are in danger our entire lives. These people want to walk around, these people walk around, it gets to the point where they want to walk around packing a gun, but we're the ones who are the menace.
Problem.
We're the problem. And I just think, so does that, I posted something about it, I was like, so does this mean that the guys packing in Starbucks and people doubling down on book banning are have been served notice? Because I feel threatened. I feel threatened every day of my life. Every day of my life. The come to Jesus that was the last 3 years has been, it's not a surprise to me where what showed itself in the American psyche the last 3 years, but as a collective, Americans have shown ourselves, I will say as the collective, and I'm not accounting individuals who are resisting it. We have shown ourselves to be a selfish people. We have shown ourselves to be an entitled people and a violent people. We have seen I'll just say it, in the MAGA crowd, because that's the crowd that is holding on so desperately to this self that just cannot somehow stomach the idea that there are people outside of them. What they have shown what they've made of this country in the last 3 years, not that it wasn't this before, but that now it's out in the open. And it took a Trump to just sort of give it a face and a bullhorn. I don't know how we recover from it. I don't know how we heal from it. I want to believe that there were more of us on the other side of it and standing in opposition to it. I just don't know what you do about it. Again, we have to live with them.
Yeah, in the conversations, particularly that Sharon and I have, and Nia as well, we often say that this ugliness that flowered finally in these last 3 years has really always been there, and it's always under the surface. And maybe there's some benefit in the fact that we can stop pretending we're the greatest city on the hill and actually face our deep systemic racism. I don't know how much hope I have for that, but that at least is on the table, that we need to stop pretending that people who are banning books because of racism and homophobia are doing a good thing. I was wondering, in looking at your long career, 30 years, you started thinking about being a lawyer and then a playwright and then teaching and then extensive resume of roles you played on stage and film and TV. Is your creative life, your theatrical life, all of a piece, or do you get some greater joy out of being the mastermind, as you were in Blue, and putting the words in other people's mouths rather than other people putting words in your mouth?
I actually don't choose. I think it is all of a piece. I learned something from in each category. I think what I love, like I said, is my chance to complain. Playwriting is my chance to complain and win my own argument. If I do it right, I win my own argument. I like to be right. But I think that this whole experience has just been overwhelming and beautiful and amazing. I think that acting is the chance to be without apology, because I spend a lot of time sort of, thinking, perhaps overthinking, trying not to take up too much space. But when I'm an actor, my feelings are my feelings because they're not my feelings.
Yeah.
But I can use what I know and what I've explored and what I've experienced. You know, the words are somebody else's, so you can't say it was my fault. And you know, like the thing with directing is what's so much fun is that meeting of the minds, you know, where you see somebody do something and you're like, oh, that makes me think, what happens if you? And there's just this give and take that happens between you and your fellow creators, you know. Same thing with teaching, you know, watching kids, especially kids, watching a kid realize that they have a story to tell, watching a kid realize that they actually can get up on that stage and recite those lines. You know, I got the chance to teach with Usual Suspects, and they had an offshoot. And of course I'm gonna blank on the name of the group, but we were in a school where down in Linwood, and we had this one kid, he was a nightmare. He did not want to do anything, but he also didn't want anyone else to do anything. So he would and he was like 12, and he would just act out every chance he could get. So one day we're looking at him and we grab a costume. We grab a cop's uniform, of all things, cop's uniform and a badge. And we say, okay, because the program was these kids would write a play and then they would perform the play that they wrote for their parents. So we couldn't get him to write. We couldn't get him to tell any of the story. But one day we grabbed the uniform, we handed it to him, and we said, okay, you're going to be the cop in the story. And the story was something about a backyard barbecue that just kind of goes crazy and there's too much noise. And how do we come to a civil solution, right? This kid, he grabbed that badge, he grabbed that hat.
Wow.
All of a sudden, there was this other person there. This person who believed in himself, this person who felt like he had purpose, this person who wanted to contribute. That kid, even if he never acts again, now knows that he's got something to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's just nothing like that. So, I mean, because something magical can happen in any of those fields, I'm just like, I'm ecumenical. It's all good to me.
So speaking of the kid and tapping into his inner police officer, I have to admit that after I saw Blue, I really did not want to see the actor who portrayed Sully in the lobby. I didn't want to lay my eyes on him. I just wanted to get away from him. And I know, you know, intellectually, this is an actor who's portraying a role, but there's another part of me that says, yeah, but he's tapping into something, something real.
Too well.
But in fact, Nia and I he did come out in the lobby. I shook his hand, you shook his hand.
And I went outside.
He seemed like he seemed like a really charming guy.
So how do you experience that with him? And how does, you know, the actress who's, you know, playing the other role, does she actually, do you get into the feelings? I mean, can she look at him without disgust?
Yes, because see, poor John, John Colella, he has played a Nazi. He might play a Nazi in Cabaret, which is how I got to meet him. And he played a bigot in 12 Angry Men, and then this cape. And the thing is, the beauty about acting is we all have stuff about ourselves that we're not necessarily proud of. And an honest actor, I think a really good actor, has access to those parts of themselves that they know they're capable of, but choose not to act on in normal everyday life. Because it's there. The bias is there. I got to play, I played a character who was really hard to get out of my system years ago, Gangbanger. And, I've played characters who've, met loss in the most horrible way at an untimely time and been told you cannot go there. But you do have to go there. And the thing about John is that he is able to share and access something ugly, but only because he's honest about the fact that it's there.
Yeah.
You know?
He was very effective. I mean, when we came the
Mhm.
second time, I brought my 17-year-old nephew.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there are a couple of points where John like walks very up close to the audience, and he's like fixing his tie or something, and he was like really close to my nephew, and I'm thinking, you better get the hell away from him.
A little bit, yeah. He's like, you did a good job, man.
Yeah. Good
Yeah.
job.
But
But that's not him. It's not who he is. It's he just is aware, and he taps into it. And you wouldn't want it, because there are actors who you kind of know that's who they are. It's not him.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear.
Yeah, it's not him.
So I think I saw that you're taking this play to Edinburgh.
Yeah.
And you're going to play Detective Parker.
Yeah.
What's up with that? Why Edinburgh? What's the connection?
I have wanted to go for a few years, and I kind of got the itch when Michael, our director, took a show in 2017, and I was like, ooh, Edinburgh. But I mean, I didn't really have anything until this came up, and then it was like, I've wanted to go for a long time. This is easy. It's small. It's portable.
Mm.
And I like the character, and so it would just be really fun. So why not? And the amazing thing is I have the opportunity to go with a group. There are 6 of us who are working toward this goal. And it's like we're just a team. It's a wonderful team of people who are really interested in going to Edinburgh, and this is something we can do, so we're doing it.
Very cool.
So do the other team members share your passion for conveying issues of social justice in a way that makes it palatable? When you said a couple of moments ago, what do you do? And all this stuff is happening in the world, and after Trump is sort of like the flowering of the whole MAGA personality. And one of the things that you've chosen to do is touch our hearts with this play. And I can't help but believe that there are some people who don't get it, and who are more likely to get it in a deeper way by experiencing a play like this. Do the other team members have that same kind of passion that you have?
That's, I think, what's the big miracle about it. They actually do. It's Jalan, John, Michael, Rebecca, and Mark. They're all, we are all so, I think it's the way we live our lives. Jalan is a teacher, when she's not acting. She is about getting people of color access. Michael is the same way. Everyone is about the same way. It's kind of, yeah. It's sort of, we're like this collective of hippies, but we're all kind of in the same fight. We just have different ways of going about it, and yeah, I do hope that someone who doesn't necessarily get it will see the play and be like, oh, That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's where that's a win. You know, if somebody, even if they don't necessarily stay in that place, if somebody can just hear this other perspective, because what toxic masculinity, you know, white fragility, all of it, it's sucking us down the drain.
Mhm.
And as much as I want to understand, I get it, you know, the world isn't yours anymore. I get it. And you're mad about that. But it's like a toddler who just found out they're having a baby brother or baby sister, and all of a sudden they're worried that mom and dad don't love them anymore.
Mhm.
Nobody, there's enough love to go around. There really is. You know,
Yeah.
there is enough to go around. It's just so it's really cool to be doing this with people who are that dedicated
Yeah, yeah, and
to the fight.
it's really important, you know. So we published the LA Progressive and the Hollywood Progressive, and the reason that the Hollywood Progressive exists is because I found myself one day. So Dick and I are husband and wife, and the LA Progressive is a daily digital publication. We publish every day, and we've done that for more than 15. We're going into our 16th year, and I found myself one day just feeling so down because so much of the news is just bad news.
Mhm.
And so we came up with the Hollywood Progressive as a way to address social justice issue, but through the arts. And you know, that's what you're doing. And it's kind of easier. It's easier to discuss these very difficult topics, and even easier to look toward solutions when you're not depressed.
When you're not depressed, yeah. You know,
Who would have thought?
right? Go figure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow,
I
wonderful.
But also, I would say that in this play, I mean, you're addressing complex issues of white supremacy, police violence, murders, in a way that drives the point home that maybe a panel discussion on MSNBC kind of fogs up the screen. But this I think even we brought three other people, Nia's partner and her brother and
My nephew.
nephew, who are not theater people. I would say we kind of are. We like going to theater, and they all were impacted by it. They all got the message. They were chattering about it on the drives home. And it's really a powerful play. I mean, you're much to be commended for writing such a powerful play at such an appropriate moment, I would say.
Yeah, yeah.
And
That
the
really-
intimacy of that space, that I think the Henry Murray stage is
Yeah.
perfection for this sort of play, because you're right there with the actors and you're experiencing their emotions with them. Really, really powerful.
Yeah, it's a thank you. I'm so grateful for the experience. And yeah, it's like watching people sort of ping pong between, you know, watching the heads go back and forth and back and forth. Oh, what's she gonna, especially with these two actors, but the space really is the brainchild of our director, Michael. We were in the space back when there was nothing there, when it was just sort of this crowded green room, you know, bookcases everywhere and stuff. And it was kind of orange and weird, but yeah, it was orange and weird. And you know, we were sitting there during the workshop phase, and he was looking around, and he was like, and this was before we'd said yes, the theater had been kind enough to say yes, we want to do this. And he's like, you know, I mean, this place would be perfect. And then they ran with it. They said yes, and they ran with it. And so it's like, you know, Joe and Dave, the technical directors, Guillermo and Betsy, the artistic director, and the lead producer. Everyone, you know, we had six producers all told, you know. Keela Kitu, I'm doing my shout outs, Tarina Pouncey, Millie Langford, Sarah Fenton Vance. And everybody was just like, everyone just said yes. And that space just is magical.
It is.
What they conjured is magical.
Yeah,
And
so
the way we were brought in, sorry, Dad, sorry. The way we were brought in, the pomp and circumstance, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I was as we were watching it, I was saying, well, this could be on a standard stage downstairs, but you would lose so much. As Ian and Sharon have said, I mean, you're right there. You got to move your feet so you don't trip one of the actors, and it feels like you're in the interrogation room.
Yeah, but we don't want to give much away. But I will say one of the most powerful effects was the way that you demonstrated how difficult it is for Black-white relationships, especially in areas of employment, to really be authentic.
Yeah.
Because you saw the onion being peeled with the investigator. As you began to see more and more of how she really felt about him.
Yeah.
And it occurred to me that it is very difficult to have these truly authentic relationships because we just have not deconstructed the racial dynamics in this country, even though it's the most multi-racial, multi-ethnic country in the world. Yet we just don't have language to deal with this.
That's exactly what it is. We don't have the language. The language we have is, as we said before, it's built for cis, white, straight men.
That's right.
And everyone else is chattel or non-existent. I remember this was in college. This was at Brown. It was shocking. I came I was watching a movie, and I turn off the movie and I walk into the lounge. I'm in tears. The movie is about a Black veteran, Vietnam veteran, who is it's about the death of a Black Vietnam veteran who cannot be buried in a white cemetery when he gets home. I walked into the lounge, and I'm oh, it's terrible, and buried and American, and my then best friend was a little taken aback. And at some point in the conversation, because it did turn to, well, how can I dedicate myself to a country that does not want me in it? And she said to me, white woman, white girl, she said, well, my country, right or wrong. 2.5 years of friendship gone.
Yeah.
Because in one sentence, she completely erased my entire existence.
Yes.
My experience. And we never got back. We never got back there. We never recovered from it.
Yeah.
Because we're not dealing with the same history. We're not positioned in the same place in history. And when I think about this guy who was like, forfeit your right. When that guy understands that the problem isn't that we BIPOC people bubbled up out of nowhere in 2020. The problem is they have not let go of the language and the history, and they have not let go of the country. If they ever get to that place, and I don't know that group will, then maybe things we'll be able to turn things around. But until, and I'm not going to say how pessimistic I am about it, but it is so funny to walk around in this body with this skin and not exist. It is so weird. And it's like when I used to take the bus, and I would watch the Black kids get on the bus as I was going down by Fairfax High School, and they were loud, so loud. But one day I realized, you know what? They just want to make their mark. And if they go silently, they don't exist.
Yeah.
And they're 16.
Mm.
4-year-olds and 5-year-olds learn that they don't exist, and they learn to navigate a world that does not recognize their existence.
Yeah.
And then you add sexuality on top of that, and you add gender on top of that. Good luck.
Done.
Good luck. You know. And meanwhile, grown men are whining that they have to think about what comes out of their mouths. You know,
How they talk to people, heaven forbid.
heaven forbid, you know. Yeah, and it's so funny because it's morphed, you know. It's like Ronald Reagan. I blame Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan was the one who demonized political correctness, which was really just thinking before you speak.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And in every connotation, every different configuration, people like Ronald Reagan find a way to demonize think before you speak. Meanwhile, over half the country has had to do that their entire lives for generations.
Right.
You know?
Right. Thus you end up with this inauthenticity
Right.
in relationships.
In relationships.
Because on one side, everything that you're saying has to be sort of policed before it comes out of your mouth.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't have to do the same thing
Mm-mm.
for you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's literally think before you speak. That's literally all it is. When you don't have to, you don't.
Yeah.
I'm
Think
not
before
hating
you
you on it.
speak and choose empathy in what you choose and what you're thinking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. You know, empathy, no.
No.
There's a woman on there who I love Instagram because it's a great place to yell, but there's a woman who literally made she made empathy into a bad thing. I was like, how did you manage to make empathy into how did you do that? She's like talking about her you know her kid having to learn pronouns. And it was like, I'll take him to therapy. And I was like, okay, so number one, there's that. I'm not hating on therapy. I love therapy. But this is a mother who does not even want to deal with her own child. Will send her child to therapy before she deals with empathy with the child. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, we're in trouble. We're doomed. We're doomed.
Well, you guys have anything else that we want to talk to June about? Because we need to wrap this up. This has been a wonderful, wonderful conversation, June. We wish you the best of luck, especially when you guys go to Edinburgh, and we want to continue to follow your career. You have anything that you're working on right now that we can
ask that too? Or anything up here about to come onto paper?
I do. I'm really excited about my life right now. Writing wise is exciting. I'm working on a play for young audiences with In Other People's Shoes. It's about a girl whose superpower is invisibility. I'm working on a play called The Wronged Party I was gifted, literally gifted, knock wood, a commission with I Am a Theater Company to write a play for their Unsung Voices. It's the Shonda Rhimes Unsung Voices commission. And it's a play about the end of the world where we're talking about this kind of thing. You know, it's like all the bad that can happen and how we choose to ignore it. You know, I need to write a comedy at some point in my life, but
We'll get there, maybe.
Yeah, so I this has been a wonderful experience, June. Just like going to your play twice, and we do look forward to staying in touch in some fashion and see what
I would love to stay in touch. Yes, please.
Yes, we will. We will.
Okay.
Thank you so much, June Carroll.
Thank y'all so very much. This was such an honor. Thank you.
Thank you.